Welcome to the She Did That podcast, Keri.
Thank you for having me, Renee.
Of course. How's your spirit today, lady?
My spirit it's actually really, really good. I started today with some Bob Marley. Yeah,
you can never go wrong.
Sun is shining.
The weather is sweet.
That's right. We could sing the whole song. We could just affirm one another right now.
Yes.
And keep it moving. Yes.
Yes.
How about you? How's your spirit today?
My spirit is so full. We've had a couple of other guests here in the studio, and each conversation, you never know what to expect, you know, and I go into these conversations with no expectations. But I know that the women I invite into the studio, like, I'm very intentional. And each conversation has been such a gift, like whether it's laughter or like tears or, you know, just revelations.
Absolutely.
I am super excited to have you here to fill my cup even further today.
Thank you. Like one of my my older relatives says, it's good to be here. It's good to be seen.
Girl, I see you. I see you. So let's get into what I see. You are so many things to so many people. And so when I was thinking about the direction of this conversation, I was like, okay, Renee, everybody doesn't have the attention span that you have. Like, this conversation could go in so many different directions, but I like to start with just your time on camera and how you made that shift to working behind the camera. I think
absolutely
a lot of people, you know, especially in this day of social media, they see what they see, but don't know, like, what led you to this place. So let's start there.
Well, I think what led me to being in front of the camera is really interesting. I had just finished my master's in business and working towards finishing my master's in education. And I think when I was in my early 20s, I looked like late teens.
Because you still look like you're in your early 20s now.
Yeah, I look like I'm something because I wear my children's clothing all the time. So we all wear the same sweats, the same.
It's the glow, too. I know you're being humble, but it's the glow.
I lotioned for you. You saw me lotion for you. I lotioned for you 20 minutes ago. But I would say that when I finished school and I started thinking about what was next for me, because my idea of studying business and studying education was really being of service. What skill sets could I hone that I could be of service to the greater good? And I was in Minneapolis, and a young black man said, like, "Oh, are you a model?" I was like, "No, I'm not." He said, "I'm going to get you an agent."
Okay, in Minneapolis. I love
it. Now, Minneapolis used to be the fourth largest in commercial production for the longest time. It was a quiet, successful place to be.
Did not know that.
And so he took me to his friend, a black photographer, took my photos, like outside, behind a building, you know, I don't know, it just got dressed, did some photos, walked me into an agency, and they were like, "Oh, wow, great." And then they're like, "Oh, how old are you?" I was like, "How old do you want me to be?"
Exactly. That's the real question.
Right. And I think that was the first, like, huh. And when I told them I was in my mid-20s, they were like, okay. They were ready to take the journey with me. Now, I was working full-time. So I was doing work, you know, print work and, you know, these little shows in the department stores and commercials outside of my work. Weekends, evenings, if I had to take a vacation day off. But I just balanced it. And what I did was I walked into that space with my business hat on. So I didn't walk in like, "Ooh, I'm cute," because everybody's cute.
Right.
Literally.
Right.
Everybody.
Yeah.
But I walked in with a different perspective. And I just started to really analyze and Malcolm Gladwell the situation, kind of thin slice all of the information and start to collect the information. So I approached the business like a business. Super successful. I had great success. And then I had my first child, Yara, and that was back before cell phone photos, sent you a photo, here's my kid. I walked in, I was like, "Oh, look, 6 weeks old, here's what I had."
Yes.
They took a Polaroid photo, like, "Oh, she's so cute, I'm gonna put it on the wall." They faxed it to a department store. They called me the next day, "Yara has a booking," and I said, "How?" She's 6.5 weeks old.
Right.
And at that point, I realized that I could do something with and for my family while being with my family.
Such a blessing. That's such a blessing, Keri, because oftentimes the thing that we enjoy doing takes us away from the people we love, you know? So you really get the best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah. I was laser focused. I was laser focused because pretty quickly, Yara and I started working together all the time. And I think because I'm a Leo, I think because I was raised a certain way, I walked into that space feeling extremely empowered. In the space of talent and you know, working in this business, so many times we come in feeling like we're just lucky to be here. We're just happy to be
oh my
here.
gosh, I say that all the time. I say it all the time. Like, no, we should not just be happy to be here. They are actually lucky to have us.
Absolutely.
And they should be honored to have us.
Absolutely. And it's a wonderful partnership.
Yes.
The goal is we do our best work. We bring in financial abundance. They reap financial abundance. Your talent agents use their skill set to fit you into a space that really is tailored for you. So it's a great symbiotic relationship. And once I had Yara and I realized like, oh, I'm on to something.
Yes.
Had the next child, I had Saeed, and then I had 2 kids working with me. And for them, it felt like a play date.
Right.
Like I'm with my mom hanging out. Oh, we're taking a break, eating snacks. Oh, I'm jumping on a bed. Like they weren't able to discern. And I also didn't make a big deal out of anything.
Yes.
You know, it's work. And I'm going to make it feel like play for them. But I knew that everything that they did was stacking and beginning their entrepreneurial careers. So I'd say if I fast forwarded, by the age of 8, Yara named her corporation. By the age of 10, Saeed named his corporation. So they were earning enough on their own to fund their S corps and have corporate names, and that was really exciting. So when they did what children do, they evolved me. I stayed in the commercial world, and they went on to television and film. I think the next really neat step as a woman who was teaching another young woman and another young Black man how to feel empowered in the space was I didn't collect their checks for them.
Wow,
And
that's
so-
powerful.
Yeah, and so Saeed was on a show, Uncle Buck, and he was on plenty of shows, but I remember Uncle Buck was Monday through Friday for a few months. At the same time, Yara was on Blackish Monday through Friday. At the same time, my youngest was a recurring on an American Crime Story drama.
Girl.
So they were at Sony, Universal, and ABC at the same time. And my husband and I were still working, and we had a nanny, and we were just tag teaming. But what was really neat about it was seeing the first time when they were passing out checks, and there's little Saeed, and they were like, but he's like 12. And I was like, yeah, it's his check. And seeing Yara at 14, for 8 years, I think I went to that office twice to pick up her check, and that's because she asked me to.
Wow.
So it's just such a cool space. And then when we fast forward, before we started our production company, I remember the moment that Grownish was offered to Yara, and what Kenya did was say to her, who do you want to hire for your writer's room? And at 17, she turned and called another Black woman that
Yes,
she had
Yara.
writer and said, hey, you know, this show is launching. I thought of you. Is this something you'd be interested in? You know, at this point, for her at 17, like, that's what you do. I'm sitting next to her like, do you know what a big deal this is?
Such a big deal.
Yeah. So, you know, starting in the business has blossomed and taken us down so many roads and has challenged me at times to figure out, who am I outside of them?
Yes, which I do want to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I can't even imagine how easy it is for your entire identity to be wrapped in your children and pouring into them and investing in them. But even the trust that you had with them at an early age speaks volumes for the way that you raised them. And also just for your ability to let them be humans, you know? Like, because if there were some mistakes that would have been made, like they would learn from those mistakes. Like it's not the end of the world. As a parent, I'm sure that it's, the natural thing to do is want to like have that grip and hold on tight and control everything. But look at these awesome humans you've created by allowing, like giving them that freedom to manage their money early,
Oh yeah, it's not mine. It wasn't mine. So I think where I've held on tighter, and I was just talking to my second child about this, I was saying about the youngest, I said, he'll just wear just about anything. I said, but I'm not wearing it. Now the other two, I would have been like, I don't know, you sure you want to go on the streets like that? But
the shade, the mother shade.
Yeah, but I think with my evolution, I really have taken to heart that all of us have our own personal evolutions and revolutions, no matter what age.
Yes.
I definitely feel like our teachers come in many ages, stages. They look different. I feel like my children are my teachers. Again, another symbiotic relationship. But when I think about who I've become while raising them, I definitely pat myself on the back because I've remained of service, what I've been taught to be of service to people outside of myself and my family. And I think after going through kind of a moment of who am I if I'm not like, that powerhouse woman behind this family? And it was actually my father who said, you're not riding on their coattails, you knit the coat.
Oh, come on, Dad, with the words and the bars.
Yeah, and so really taking to heart that I can dream my biggest dream. We have a team around us that sees me separately from everybody else in our family and vice versa. And so it's really exciting, the spaces that I've been in, the travel that I've done, the people that I've been able to take with us to travel, other young Black women, other like, please, you look like me, let's go.
Let's do it. I love all of this. So let's get into Seventh Son Productions.
Yes.
What is it like, Keri, to be in this creative and business partnership with your daughter? How do you negotiate that balance? How do you know when to have on the mama, the protective mama bear hat versus when to have on the I'm your partner in business hat, I'm your partner in creativity hat? How do you manage it all?
I think it's an ever evolving algorithm. And I think there are many more hats.
Yes.
So outside of motherhood and being in relationship with my daughter, our friendship, our business partnership, there's also I've been a young woman too.
Yes.
And let me put my foot gently on the small of your back and push you forward, which sometimes is in direct friction with motherhood. But for me, I feel like, I don't know what the universe or God did. God was like, stay a step ahead so you can enjoy every one of their adventures. And I've had the best time watching Yara do things that I've never even done, and encouraging her to make phone calls that I've never had to make at a certain age. And so I think what I do, like right now she's deep in thesis mode. She defends her thesis in under 24 hours in Boston.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. This is like a serious time.
This is it. She's at the finish line.
I feel it.
And I've got 14 questions that I need answered from the production company side and her personal endorsement side, which I'm one of her strategists on that side. And I just woke up this morning and called our manager and I said, even though we keep acknowledging that she's in her final stages of her senior year, the questions keep coming. Oh, that's okay, take her time, but we still need that quote.
Yeah.
And I was like, so we have to stop a step before that.
Yes.
We have to stop asking for things because I said she's a very kind human and she's going to bend over backwards. I don't want her bending at all. So that's the mom hat comes on there. And
set those boundaries for her.
Yeah. And I think, and it's such a beautiful thing because her manager is like her auntie, who's fiercely protective of her time. But I think what we've done is we've found a group of people to work with that understand that education comes first.
Yes.
her curiosity comes next. Her love of travel comes next. Her relationships come next. And everything else fits in it. So, you know, when we're looking at companies to work alongside, like Dior or Dell, we're first seeing, like, just, is there a vibe? Do we like the people? Are they good humans?
Right.
Are they philanthropic? We have so many questions that you wouldn't think that those would be the first questions.
No, but it makes sense because going back to what we said, we're not operating from a deficit.
Never.
We don't have to be here. We choose to be here. And because it's a choice, it needs to feel good.
That's right.
You know, it's not just about optics. This is not about you all just checking off a box.
That's right.
It needs to feel good for us.
That's right. Yeah. And then, you know, you and I were talking before we started just about the sunrise walks that I was doing, that I am doing. And I was thinking about it when you were talking about consistency. You were talking about just pushing through and consistency. And it made me think, like, I am inconsistently consistent, and it's such a beautiful space to be okay with.
Inconsistently consistent.
So
yes.
I've taken 10 days off because we've had a huge project, and I'm okay with it.
Yes.
I think 5 years ago, it would have stressed me all the way out. Like, oh, I broke my streak of doing this and that and the other.
Yeah. No. So for everyone listening who, if you are not following Keri on Instagram, I encourage you to. It's ChocolateMommyLuv, right? She is just a ray of sunshine, beautiful woman, stylish, as fly as you will ever see on the gram.
Oh my goodness.
But what I really enjoy about the content you share is, you know, you're giving us a peek into your life, and it's not always the shiny and glossy moments. You know, she's very much about, like, as she mentioned, she does these sunrise walks. And, you know, sometimes I'm sure you just get out the bed and you're ready to hit the ground running. And she has shared very generously the times when maybe she didn't feel like it, and she pushed through. And what I was telling her was that I just admire that, because it's a muscle that a lot of us don't exercise, which is discipline and consistency, even when it's something we don't want to do. Sometimes there are these beautiful gifts on the other side, whether it's something you discover on your walk. I know were there bears? I think there was a situation with some bears.
Deer. But I think the most impressive is, and it sounds so basic, have you ever watched the sunrise 5 days in a row?
No, girl, no.
Like, how did I get this far? How did I get to my 50s? It was a 5-year-old, my 5-year-old neighbor. Her mom said, oh, yeah, she loves to watch the sunrise. And I was like, I almost looked at her like, the sunrises?
Right.
You know? And the next day, I was outside.
Just on it.
And when I tell you, even if the clouds are covering the sun, it's still breathtaking. So I just encourage everyone first to just get up and look out their window and watch the sunrise.
Okay.
Just look out your window. But there's something about the sunrise that I feel like the sun does not ask you for anything. Nature asks you for nothing. There are no phone calls to return to nature. There's no email to send. All nature wants you to do is be present.
I never thought, can I just sit with that for a moment? Because there's rarely anything in our lives that doesn't require something of us.
Right. That's right.
But it's like the nature is constantly giving to us, but not requiring anything in return.
Nothing.
Wow.
I didn't realize how much I enjoy colder weather until my sunrise walks, because it'll get down to 30s here. Which then made me do Paris twice in the winter. I love Paris in the winter. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would only do warm weather anything. Now, I'm like, oh, so this is the secret people have been keeping.
Oh, wow.
That you see bundled up, you know, in the Alps.
Right. It's because there's a different awareness, I think, that you have of yourself when you're chilly versus when you're warm or cozy or even hot. So I love that. I every time I see you, I'm usually like in my bed, girl, or just getting the day started. But when I see your post about your sunrise walks, I'm like, go ahead, Keri. Like, you are so consistent with it. And it's very inspiring. I know
Thank
that,
you.
like,
But there's so many people in our world, right? So if it's not me, I'm looking at somebody else that's making me smile and say, okay, let me just do 5 minutes of, flexibility stretches.
Yeah.
I swear I want to be able to do the splits by the end of the year. How am I going to do the splits if I'm just sitting here?
right, exactly.
So there are so many people out, that are just inspiring us. I had the most inspiring phone call today from a young person who's in the entertainment business, who loves British drama like I do, and was just talking about different projects. I got off the phone and I deleted TikTok.
Wow.
I was like, this is taking up too much. Even though my algorithm is beautiful and it's all inspirational, I got off the phone and I was like, this person is doing something else.
Okay.
And I was so inspired by them that I was like, I need to create more space.
Wow.
Because
and you did it immediately.
Immediately. I was like, that you know how it starts to shake on your
Yes,
phone?
yes.
I hit that X.
You're like, out of here.
Outta
so I
here.
can spend more time saying yes to other things that really bring me joy.
Yes.
And so the art of storytelling, I think that a lot of us are storytellers now in different spaces, different phases of our life. But like, how are you tapping into that art with Seventh Son Productions? Like, when you think about the stories you want to tell through your business with Yara, what are some of the things that you look for? Because I would imagine that this is like a tough audience. Like, how, like, you being who you are and Yara, like, how do you decide which stories you want to put out into the world? What's some of the criteria?
It's such a good question, because I remember day 0 before we opened our doors. My question was, how am I going to be able to discern between what I like and what if we like everything? And pretty quickly what happens is you start to really understand, like, oh, that one's not for me. But you know who would like it? It just, something happens where it's like, when you realize you're going to have to live with something for an extended period of time, it may be an incredible topic. It may be just a brilliant idea, but somebody else. The universe has somebody else in store for it. And so the release of it, of which was never yours anyway, is actually exciting.
Yes.
And so Seventh Son, which is a degendered take on a Du Bois theory of the black man is the seventh S-O-N. So we are seventh in line. And I believe it was Yara was in Dr. Cornel West's class.
Okay, just pause. Like,
I know.
Even that fact, I'm like, that is huge.
Yeah.
To be in Cornel West's class.
In his class.
That is like historic. That is like, oh my gosh. I can't even imagine those experiences.
Side note, I was there the first week that she was in school, and quietly, our team was making sure that she was safe. And she came walking out of class and she said, "Oh, Mommy, this is Professor West." And, I'm like, humana.
Like, what do you say to Cornel West?
Well, I didn't get a chance to say anything because he knelt down on one knee and he said, "Thank you, sister. We've been waiting for her."
Oh my God. How sweet and just amazing.
Yeah. And
I'm visualizing this right now.
Wow. In the Harvard yard.
Wow.
And his commitment to all of the students, whatever student seeked him out, was astounding. And so she was in class. She was like, I know our name. And she said, what I want to do, because we're dealing with living behind a veil, right? And double consciousness of, how we see ourselves and how others see us. And many times we live our lives based on the white gaze.
We do.
Or how we feel people are interpreting our actions.
Yes.
So we don't give ourselves the time and space to live authentically, nor is that time and space given to us, quite frankly.
Right.
So she said, let's degender it and become the sun that pierces the veil.
What a genius. What a genius.
I know. So our goal is to really revel in the everyday ordinary, which, brown and black and immigrant stories are spectacularly ordinary, and they are spectacular in their ordinariness.
Love this.
And again, we don't get that space to do the boyhood, the Richard Linklater of, let's just watch a young black man grow up, dye his hair. There's nothing salacious is going to happen.
Right.
And so we focus on reality, joy, spaces that we don't see ourselves. We love the idea of space, science. And then on the film side, we're all mushballs, like romantic comedies. We love to laugh. I think that we deserve some space to let our guard down.
Oh my gosh, do we?
And we deserve to show women in all of the facets that we reside in.
Yes.
And
not
so,
just in a product, like I feel like with black women especially, we are so aligned with what we produce.
Right.
You know, and that's almost when we get that attention from the world. But like, what about when we're just doing basic things, like nurturing each other and, you know, just existing.
Existing. And I think the beautiful thing is, you know, the Isas and the Linas and Melina, Matsukas, all of these people, they're all the same. They're all nurturing.
Yes.
So open, so kind. Everybody's just fighting to open the space and bring people with them. And I think when you see that and you see other black women reflecting what you want and being, you know, the next stop at where you want to be, it's so exciting. And so we really do focus on joyful content. It doesn't mean that it's sappy. It doesn't mean that it's unrealistic.
Right.
We feel like we've got peers that do trauma, that explore the trauma and the necessary history to share. They do it very well. We want to explore some other spaces.
You put it so nicely, because there is an abundance of trauma porn that we are subjected to, whether it's on television or on, you know, scrolling on our phone. So it's refreshing to think about the type of stories that you're producing and creating here. Switching gears a little bit, we've talked about, you know, all of these different lanes that you operate in as a woman. How are you finding harmony? Because balance does not exist, and we all know that. How are you finding harmony as a mother, a wife, a sister, a friend, a creative, and all of the other titles that you wear?
I don't know if it's because I'm a Leo, but boy, I like my me time. I love my me time.
Because your walks are sometimes your me time.
Yeah,
I know your husband joins you a lot, but
he joins in.
It started off kind of, I think, as your solo thing too.
It still is. I love it when he joins me, and I love it when I walk alone. And I do, you know, many times I do sunset as well.
Look at you. I love it.
It's just so nice out.
You're a sun worshiper.
I am, and I didn't know that for the longest time. But I'd say I find harmony because I am so focused. You know, I'm over 50 now, and I don't know. For me, something happened at 40 something where I was like, am I at the top of the rainbow? Is it now a slide? I don't know. But I just was like, let me hurry up. Let me hurry up and look up and enjoy every moment. So
sense of urgency.
Yeah. I had a friend saying, I think I'm going to take myself to Paris. I was like, can I go? We had the best week.
Yes.
While I was there, my neighbor, who's a dear friend, said, are you in Paris? I want to go. I was like, let's go.
I love the spontaneity of it all.
I was back 8 weeks later. In between those 8 weeks, she had taken her daughter.
Come on.
So I'm surrounded by women and women of color that are looking up. And
looking up. What a beautiful metaphor.
And seeing that, you know, the train keeps moving. It may not move in the direction, you know, at the pace we want it to move. So if we leave, you know, I know what happens to my son's math homework if I'm not right here.
Right.
And what I've learned to become is okay.
Yes. Because whatever is going to happen is going to happen.
It's going to happen. You know, if my youngest is over 13 and they say at about that age, there's no more teaching new concepts. We're now just reminding, reinforcing, helping them develop their moral and ethical barometers.
Yes.
But it's already in there. So that was really freeing for me. And then to have my oldest be just the best big sister, the best big sister. She's just such a thoughtful human.
She's a reflection of you, like literally and figuratively.
That, and she has taken me to places that, geez, I'm like, God, I wish I was like that.
Girl, you are though. Like, it just, I admire the friendship more than anything. Like, I see that and I feel that when you all are together. I think sometimes parents could want so hard to be the parent and to guide their children a certain way that sometimes they miss out on, this is another human that I actually like and I could have a friendship with. That's as opposed to always, you know, trying to do what they think is their role as the parent, you know?
Yeah. And so, you know, going back to your question, finding that harmony was letting go of some things where it was time to let go. You know, the universe had me letting go of things so fluidly that I was even astounded. I was like, oh, wow. You know, I have my middle one is a sophomore at university, and my husband was saying to me on the way here, he's like, oh, our son is calling me. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking it's the 14-year-old. So I'm panicking because he's in school and he's trying to connect the call and I'm hanging up calling. And then it's my oldest one. I was like, oh, I thought it was, I said, you're good. He was like, Mommy, what do you mean I'm good? I'm like, you're grown, you're good. But then we ended up talking for 45 minutes about all sorts of everything. But there's something about that release of knowing that it's within them, you know, having young humans that we've raised in other states, traveling to other countries. It's within them. So it's given me the space to really be bold with the time that I take for myself.
Yes. It's so important. It's so important that we're taking that time.
Yes.
So before we wrap up, if there's someone listening who has a story or stories that they want to tell, but don't know where to start with developing it or pitching it.
Such a good question.
Do you have any wisdom that you can share with them?
Yeah, I would say follow all of the content creators that you can that are in that space. You know, Lena has Hillman Grad Productions. She's got internships. She's got different programs. But I think the step that I see many people jumping over, but I feel like is really useful, is that research. Is that research, because development is a very particular game right now. And what a lot of us, you know, brown and black content creators are doing is saying that not everybody has taken the traditional path because we have not been allowed on that path. So we're fighting for the non-traditional writer to come in and tell their story. Because, for example, if you pitch an idea, they then expect you to be able to write that and have your story breaks and know that is it a 30-minute comedy? Is it an hour-long drama? What does that mean?
Right.
Can you do your story arena? After your story arena, can you write the pilot script? Can you map it out for 5 seasons? There's just so much.
All the things
that we don't know about.
Right.
So there are so many free resources and people sharing this information. Soak it all in. And then instead of networking, build relationships. Build relationships.
Please build relationships.
And the difference to me is when you're networking, you have an outcome that you're looking for.
It's
right?
transactional.
It's transactional. But you're building relationships. You are pouring into people with no expected outcome. And that's where you get surprised. Like, oh my gosh, these people are coming. You know, when we moved into production, all of our friends on the entertainment side all of a sudden had production deals. So John Legend was upstairs, and you know, we had friends down the hall and people that we had done things with just as friends.
Yes.
Can you help me out and come over and pop into this video? Yeah, sure. And then all of a sudden, here we are. You know, I think the first time I saw Lena, I probably literally accosted her because I was such an OG fan of her and Issa. Both people, years ago, I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
And so when you build those things where it's like, I'm just a fan. just whatever you do, I'm there.
I'm not looking for anything. I just love what you're creating. I love what you represent.
Those things come back and in the most beautiful ways. They come back and we start to support one another in new spaces that we didn't even imagine that we would be in 5 years ago.
Right.
So I would say do all of your deep digging, your learning, your relationship building.
Relationship building. I mean, that could be a whole different episode.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. Like in this space we're in where everyone seems accessible,
right.
you know, whether it's through a DM or a tweet or what have you. And I find that because people are so focused on what they want, you're approaching people who are oftentimes strangers with your hand out.
Yeah.
And there's this ask. And it's like, can you imagine how many times someone like you, for example, is contacted with those intentions? What about contacting to say, how can I support you? How can I be of service to you? And to your point, just authentic relationships. I want us to get away from looking at people and trying to figure out how they could, like, what can I get from them?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, a lot of it is, especially for our communities, exposure.
Yes.
So, you know, on the flip side, we can't be mad at folks.
Right.
But we
can
can
they're
help.
going to do it.
Yeah, we can help. I mean, when I had more time, I would literally, if someone DM'd me like, hey, can I do your makeup so that I can, you know, so my book can look better? I would be like, you want to jump on a phone call? Like random people.
Yeah.
And we would Zoom or phone call and they would be shocked. I'm like, I want to help you get to where you want to be.
Yes.
And let me just tell you from this space of safety, this is not the way to do it.
This is not the approach.
This is
it's
not
a teachable
the approach.
moment.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of us out there that when we have the time and space, we're doing it. Otherwise, we're sharing the teachable moment. And at the same time, we are students.
Yes.
Watching other people, you know, teach us those next lessons.
So true. So true. Well,
Yeah.
that's like some really powerful advice that I hope everyone is listening to. So, Keri, it has been such a joy to have you on this show. You are just a beam of light, whether
Thank
it's,
you.
know, on social, taking it in, or experiencing it in real life. I just appreciate this energy that you bring to the world, and
Thank
am
you.
honored to have you as a guest on the She Did That podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be friends with you. I was saying the last time we really sat down and shared a meal, we were in New York.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you were
that
in that fabulous dress. You're always in fabulous dresses. I literally
love a
shop
dress.
on you.
I love a dress. They're just so easy. They're
Yeah.
so easy.
But you know, you it sounds easy. You should literally consider having your own line of dresses.
Hey, let's speak it into the
I
universe.
just did. I just spoke it into existence.
Okay, and I'm going to amplify that.
Thank you.
I will have my own line of dresses
Yes.
with, guess what? Pockets.
Yeah, with pockets. Because you know what? Folding money looks nice in pockets.
Girl, and you know, everything looks great in pockets.
Everything looks
so
great.
everyone, I know now we're like, what are we talking about? So ran into Keri in the ladies' room before we started the recording, had on this dress and realized it didn't have pockets. And she gave me some really valuable advice on how to add pockets to dresses that just
Easy
seem
breezy.
to miss that detail. And so pockets are a thing. Pockets take a dress to another level. But here we are now having a whole sidebar conversation. Thank you so much, Keri. You've been
Thank
a
you.
joy. I hope to see you around LA soon.
You will. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, beautiful people. I'm Renee Blewett from the She Did That podcast. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click below to subscribe and like this video for more Dear Media content. So shut up and listen.